Hi, friends. I hope all is well. I'm continuing to revisit the compositions that I created in these two videos. Today, I'm revisiting the grid composition. While my original layout followed a very standard grid design, I'll be reinterpreting the design for this collage by moving away from uniform shapes and working with various angles. This will allow for a more complex and intuitive design. You're seeing me loosely apply a very light orange layer of paint to the blank page. This isn't a necessary step. You could use only papers, but I didn't want to start with a blank page. Once the collage is finished, this painted layer will be seen as one of the light value elements. I started the revisited curvilinear composition collage in the same way. By the way, I'll link all the videos that I discuss in the description box. I prefer to use matte paint and matte liquid adhesives when I work in a sketchbook. It lessens the likelihood that the pages will stick together when the sketchbook is closed. As I mentioned, I'm working on this collage intuitively, so I didn't mark grid lines with a pencil. The only plan is to paint the ground layer and the choice of papers I pulled. I'm starting by adding this large dark blue element so there's high contrast right away. This angular shape is similar to the ones that'll be used in this collage. It creates a dynamic design. Fitting the angular shapes next to and below each other is like a puzzle. I naturally work from the top down. Working in this direction, I'm aware of balancing the size of the elements, along with having all three values represented. The values don't need to be balanced. My preference is when the values are unbalanced. After I glue this green element, then I'll move on to the next row down. Notice how the bottom edge of the elements in the first row is uneven. The top of the elements that will be glued below will fall along this shape. The second row of elements will be shorter in height, so there'll start to be more size contrast. This dark reddish orange paper ties in with the orange element in the first row, but it's a dark value which is needed. This decision relates back to working intuitively. To my eyes, the collage needed another dark value element at this point to balance the design. I'm marking it so the upper right point meets with the lower left point of the dark blue element. The tops of all the elements in this row will line up with the bottoms of the elements in the first row. It creates the grid format. Another way to tie together the two rows is to use one or more colors from the first row in the second row. That's why I'm using the green paper again. Once again, I'm marking with the pencil the upper right point with the lower left point of the element above it. I'm introducing a new color with this yellow paper made with absorbent ground. I love the textural look of it. I have a tutorial on how to make painted papers with absorbent ground and another one on collaging with this type of paper. I'll link both videos in the description box. At this point, the collage is leaning towards mid-tone value. As I mentioned, I prefer values that are unbalanced. To clarify, my preference is towards either mostly light or mostly dark value, not mid-tone. If the collage or any artwork has mostly mid-tone values, then it can look flat. This is why I'm adding a dark blue element next. Instead of using another piece of the solid dark blue paper, I decided to use this monoprinted paper that is dark blue with a white pattern. Its high contrast works well for an element in this area. Instead of leaving the light orange ground layer showing, I'm adding an element using this light blue paper. The collage needed another new color, specifically a light value one, to keep it from looking boring. The light blue paper ties in with the dark blue elements. When introducing a new color to a collage, think about if you want it to stand out or complement the existing colors. A standout color would be either purple or pink. In my opinion, neither would look good with the existing colors. This next row will change the design a bit. It'll be narrower with less elements, and those elements won't line up with the rows above it. This change pushes the design of the basic grid composition. I'm balancing the colors by using this light blue paper again. It's being placed underneath the green and yellow elements, leaving the light orange ground showing to the left of it. More light value is needed to offset the mid-tone values. To add more contrast, I'm using the dark reddish orange paper next. This element will fill in the remaining space in this row. I'll add music as you watch me complete the next 2 rows. We'll come back to look at the collage after I trim the edges to see if more elements are needed or if it's finished. I trimmed the paper that extends off the edges so I have a better look at the collage. I like that the collage has mostly solid color papers. It gives the design a completely different look than if it was mostly pattern papers, which is what I typically use. Let's look at the close-up view and grayscale version because this helps to see if it's finished or if more elements are needed. It has a strong design at this point. The grayscale version shows that it leans mostly towards midtone value, but it doesn't look flat due to the placement and size of the dark and light value elements. With that said, to my eyes, there needs to be some accent elements. This is where I can bring in more dark value. I'm looking mostly in the middle section. Besides more dark value, it needs one more solid orange element to balance that color. It will be an accent element as well. I'm adding the solid orange element first. Doing this step first will help me to visually see where the dark value accent elements should be placed. I didn't want to introduce new dark value papers, so I'm using the solid dark blue and the reddish orange papers for the rest of the accent elements. Adding the reddish orange accent element on top of the large solid orange element will add contrast in that area. The solid dark blue element helps to break up the large mid-tone area in the middle of the collage. The reddish-orange element breaks up the narrow light value area on the third row. The dark blue element breaks up the area on the fourth row that's mostly mid-tone. The final accent element is this reddish-orange piece that will further break up the lower right area that's mostly mid-tone. Let's take a look at the finished collage. By adding accent elements, made the collage more cohesive and have stronger value contrast. Also, it added extreme size contrast. There was movement before the addition of the accent elements because of the angular shapes and the placement of the existing elements. Let's compare the before and after. Do you see how the addition of the accent elements improved the design? Here's both versions of the grayscale. Do you see how the accent elements helped with breaking up the mid-tone value elements, which added more value contrast? I really enjoyed creating this style of grid composition, so I made a few more examples to hopefully inspire you to give it a try. Except for the first one, which is paint and paper, I use acrylic paint to make these examples. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for watching. Take care.